All systems go. Clear for liftoff. What's up, everyone? Tyler Tamboline here, aka ToeTagginTambo, back for another edition, the final one this season for the regular season playoffs, whatever you want to call it. It's back for this one for the BMW Championship. 50 golfers, no cut event. Going to break it all down as we usually do, not just picks, plays. Going to go through, talk about roster construction, ownership. Not going to talk about our guy Ben coming in here, if Wyndham Clark is close to the course or who plays at good elevation. There's lots of other shows out there to do that. Shout out to our guy Razor Sharp. First in, got my guy Hoopster here with me as always. Going to break it all down. Hoop, what's going on, my man? How you doing?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a wild stretch here throughout the PGA season. I think it's been, a pretty successful one for, the SHIPIT Nation community. But yeah, it's coming to an end rather quickly. We got 50-man no-cut event this week. We got a 30-man no-cut event next week with kind of funky scoring. But I will say, I mean, DraftKings didn't hold back at all. They got the 4K Millie Maker this week. So the contests, as always, are big. And that's the one thing we always talk about PGA. It doesn't matter how bad the field is, how shitty the event is. The prize pools on DraftKings are always pretty big. I would obviously advise a little caution this week. I mean, we don't know much about the course. I don't think they've played here since 2006. It is at elevation, 50-man no-cut event. I'd say, try to have fun with it. Unless you have a strong read on something or something you feel strongly about, then yeah, you can always go for it. But, if you're just a casual player or recreational player, I'd say, maybe chill a little bit this week.
And just see how it goes. No cut event. You could be winning all the money on Friday, then lose it all by Sunday, vice versa. You could be losing a bunch, then bounce back. Lots of good stuff. Our guy Rin, though, no EVR in the field this week, at least from what I could see. I think he's long gone. But either way, he's doing our marketing for us, Hoop, right? So we're going to hop right into that, show it off quickly. I do want to announce, too, we just popped it on the site today. So for anybody who is in the market for NFL or waiting for NFL, this is big news. So I'm going to show it off here quickly. But we did get our NFL Shiptimizer installed. So real quick, I'm just going to pop over to it. Just a heads up. So DraftKings and FanDuel are in there. 2024, week 1, the main slate. We do have main slate pricing. We put dummy projections and dummy ownership, meaning you can go in right away, sign up for the NFL package, get college football included, get all access leading up to September 8th for the first Sunday kickoff, and you can start playing around with Shiptimizer. Then we went one further, and we added the tutorial. So if you go on the site under more, scroll down to tutorials, it loads this page, NFL, PGA, and MLB so far. We've got tutorials for those. And then anybody who's wondering what it is, pretty simple, but it's our own optimizer now that we have. So for all of those sports that you see there, we carry it, automatic sync with our projections and ownership, multiple sites for certain sports that we carry it for, quickly build up to 300 lineups. There's custom settings. We always say this, but it's the optimizer designed to help you ship. Anybody who goes and watches the NFL tutorial today will see how we have presets built in so you can get extremely competitive lineups built the right way, at least or what Millie Maker winners and top players have done in the past that are considered the right way to set it up quickly for you so you can get better, more competitive lineups right out of the gate. Team stacking, game stacking. You can upload your custom projections and ownership. It does have late swap with our after start editing feature. So Hoop, not sure how much you got to check it out just yet, but pretty cool and just nice to have it up and ready to go for NFL. Anyone who wants to get in, the $2.99 early bird special is still on.
Yeah, and the one thing I will add, I mean, because learning an optimizer or getting familiar with it can be challenging. So not only do we have the tutorial, but we will be using this in our shows too. We'll be walking through some builds on the showdown shows, on the main slate slate show. So we'll be using this along the way too. So we're not just saying, here, have at it, have fun. Like we're going to use this along the way as a tool for our content as well to make sure everyone feels comfortable with what we're offering.
Yeah, and real quickly, too, the last thing I'll say, and then we'll move on. We'll get right to it this week, but the monthly packages are now available as well. It's obviously still a better deal to get the annual, but if you wanted to pay less and get in now, you can pay the monthly. It does still include all access leading up till September 8th. So just keep that in mind. It's $10 more to go from the monthly up to the monthly plus optimizer, it's $50 more, $10 a month to go up from the annual to the annual with optimizer. So it's all there. If you just want to get an all access package, those deals still exist as well, but you can check it out there. And then lastly, if you haven't known about this or checked out in the past, we did launch SHIPIT Nation Education last year. And if you go to more education, you can click NFL. It will take you here. You can get the full breakdown. Hoop and I recorded a 4-hour video course, and you can see here everything that it covers. Big thing about this is just, it's more of a, don't just talk about it, be about it. We've said it from the start. Other sites tell you, oh, got to trust your process. Which one? They don't give you, they don't discuss how to actually get better at the game. We were at these live finals. I was at King of the Beach last year with plenty of members, met them there. Hoop and I did this for the golf course on for Education PGA, talked specifically about the Fantasy Golf World Championship, and both Hoop and I were there. Like, we definitely do what we say. We put it out there for you, try and help you become a better player, and the community can stand behind that. So, Hoop, anything else you want to add? If not, we can get right to it for this week, my friend. We're going to talk all.
Yeah, I'll top in, talk through this 50-man no-cut event like you talked about. So yeah, we're good, ready to roll. Yeah,
way ahead of schedule. Only 6 minutes in, so everybody should be very happy with us. But let's talk about it, Scotty. Back up top. So Scotty, 12-3. What, do you have a bad week last week and still crushed? Like he still gets his way up there, but there was other ways. Like Xander was up there, Hovland, obviously Hideki getting the win. So it wasn't necessarily, you got to have him. And I want to talk more about that when we get to it here, because down here, there is no 5K range. There is even less golfers. So let me ask you this question first, just to see how you handle this or what your thoughts are. Scotty at 12-3, you think, okay, he's got to win, whatever. Like everyone says that. We know there's different ways around it. But when there is a limited field, it's two ways, right? He's such a high favorite to finish top 10 in this field. But is that going to matter if the other guys don't come through? But then there's only so many value options to play with down low. So how do you handle this when you've got Scotty up here at 12-3, just as good as he is?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's still the same situation we've been talking about for a while. Like, he should be like 13 something. I mean, the consistency is just absolutely insane. I will say there's a guy that's, kind of getting close to him in terms of, where he's at overall. I mean, Xander's on his heels. I mean, Xander's been absolutely phenomenal. I mean, the second half of this season has been, I guess you could say, like Scotty-esque. Gun to my head, I still think Scotty Scheffler is a better golfer, but Xander is right there. But it is easy to play. I mean, if you play Scotty, you got $7,500 left per spot. A lot of different ways you can go. The 6K range, those guys are getting 4 rounds guaranteed. So there's definitely a lot of different. I guess the one thing I will say when looking at Scotty and Xander, I'm just going to bring Xander into this conversation. I think we could see maybe a opposite effect of what we saw last week, because you kind of nailed it last week where, we were talking on the show and it's like, okay, it looked like Scotty was going to be lower owned than Xander, then got to lock. And then all of a sudden Scotty was like way above, like far and beyond. I think this week there's a chance that there's an opposite effect, because it looks like right now it's looking like Scotty's going to be higher. But I think a lot of people are going to look at this $1,200 and say, man, maybe I'll just save that 12 and play Xander. So I think we could see the opposite effect this week, where Xander might be higher owned or comparable to Scotty. I mean, I will say I went through this pricing this week, before we kind of hopped on the show and this morning, and there's a lot of uncomfortable prices when you start going down. Like, just to, briefly touch on all this, like Hideki's now up to 10.5, Rory's up to 10.8, Hovland, one good round, now he's up to 10.4. Morikawa is where he's been. Tony Finau last week was 8,700. Now he's 9,700. Fleetwood's still up there, 96. Sam Burns was in the 8Ks last week. Now he's 94. Billy Horschel at 9,300. Wyndham Clark at 92. There's a lot of uncomfortable prices in this field. So it's not as easy this week to just go ahead and jam these guys in this week. Like, there's just not a ton of comfortable standout value options, I guess, on the slate. So it will be interesting to see, but regardless, I mean, I think you can bank on the fact that Scotty and Xander will be the two highest owned. Again, I wouldn't be surprised come Thursday if they're close, or if Xander is even a little bit higher owned potentially.
Yeah, and I'll go more into that in a second. Rin says the site's looking clean. Yeah, we're working on that, trying to keep it as set up as possible so you guys can find all you need. Shout out to my guy Stewie back in the mix. Love to see it. Happy to hear everything's going well with you. Hit me up in the DM the other day. Let me know all is good. And then my guy Kenny. If you guys don't know, excited for this week. My boy, Hebrew Cheetah, 2 seats into the Fantasy Baseball World Championship. Kenny has a seat, joined, started playing some baseball, got in the streets. Others as well. Scarface, going to be a great time. I know he's not going to make it, but I will be in Chicago Friday through Sunday, leaving on Monday morning, actually. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Excited for that. Hit me up. Let me know the deep dish spots. I've never been to Chicago, so certainly excited for that. But just back to it here, I think, Hoop, this is the question that I was getting at and kind of setting it up. What shall I consider? It's going to be some of that. So last week, I just went back and pulled it. I'm not going to bring it up on the screen, but just so you guys have it, the winner of the big lottery, the Summer Sand Trap with $200K up top, had a Hovland Matsuyama lineup with Finau, Burns, Wyndham Clark at 79, and just needed to dip down for one guy, Chris Kirk, at 6,200. Versus the third place lineup, which was the best Scotty lineup of the bunch, was Scotty Hideki. Obviously, how it got up there, Burns, all of that, but it needed Bobby Mack, Eric Cole, and Brendan Todd to all find their way around and get their way up there. Obviously, Cole was pretty popular, but some of those other ones where you see a setup like that. So it is going to be tricky. It's all how you got to look at it from your perspective of when you're building it out. But I will say, like, quick example, I think it's 2v2 right out of the gate. And I'll throw it out to the chat if they want to answer. We're going to put it up on the screen. But this is the 2v2 I saw, and it leads me into our next guy we're going to talk about anyway. Next 2 guys at least, or a couple of them here, Hoop. But do you want to play Colin Rory Kawa, and that's Rory mixed with Morikawa, or do you want to play Scotty and Rye? That's an exact 2v2 that you can look at.
I can't imagine clicking Rory McIlroy's name this week, so it's very easy for me. Like I get the game theory stuff, but that's the easiest 2v2 decision of all time, and it's not even close. I cannot click that name. That is. I don't know if
Rory can play worse though. Is it possible?
No, but even if he plays half as bad as he played last week, he ain't getting the job done. I mean, he's got to compete with the big boys. He's got to compete with the Scotty and Xanders. Like, he's got to fix a ton of shit to get back on track. Man, that's a very easy one for me.
All right. You got the answer there. And, Nick, who's been making a lot of money on the Scotty versus Rory bets, and just every bet in general, I should say, always has receipts. Appreciate that. But he also hooked it up, said Giordano's. So Giordano's, I'm going to hit that place up and check it out because that sounds good. And I know Nick only recommends the best. He takes care of himself, and if he's going for it, it's got to be good. So shout out to Nick there. But yeah, just back to that lineup construction point, Hoop, was, I guess, what the Scotty lineup had to sacrifice. They still got to the right ones in their set of 150 lineups. Really good player. I mean, obviously it makes sense to mix some of that in, but you did have to go a lot further down the board. And if this week, when we get down there, you're not as comfortable with some of those options, you do have to think about some of the situations where if Scotty doesn't, you can save that money with Xander. So I like your ownership call there, or you can drop down and even skip over the price bumps of like Hideki and Hovland and start with a Morikawa. Not saying he won't be popular too, but just to stay in this upper range. Or you could start with Cantlay and try a balanced build, but it's just tough. It really depends on how you think the bottom is going to go. But remember, again, they do get 4 full days. So, and definitely this guy brings it up too here. Cajun Saint, there was Scotty Xander lineups. I found some of them last week that I liked. I think, looking at it again, there is real players down in the 6K range. These are the guys that made the top 50 for the entire season. So it can work. It just depends on how you see in the event play out.
I think it'll be more popular this week than it was last week. I don't know if that's like a hot take or anything, but I think it'll be more popular this week than it was last week because of those price tags that I talked about. You don't have Sam Burns at 8,300. You don't have Aaron Rye at 8K. You don't have Tony Finau in the 8Ks. You don't have Justin Thomas at 8,400. When those guys are in that price range, it's easy to take a guy up top and then, a couple of those 8K guys. Like, you don't have that this week. So I think a lot of people just say, you know what, I'll just take these 2 big dogs and then just give me, whatever else I can get down low.
Yeah, I like that. What last thought up here, because, we just kind of hit on the part you mentioned there is key, is like the Rory coming off a horrible week, Hideki, Hovland getting the price bump. I think it's pretty clear it's going to be Morikawa that gets the love at 10-1 when people aren't going up to Scotty Xander. But then to that point as well, Scotty Kawa or Xander Kawa for the savings is where people will probably end up. I just use that 2v2 to show it off, but I think for sure that's going to be something that it depends on what people think about the 8K range this week, which there's a few guys in there that always get the love, but we'll have to see what you think when we get there. But before we go there, let's talk about these 9K guys. I've heard a little bit, at least more than normal, love for Patrick Cantlay at 9,800. And then, Fleetwood always gets a little bit of love. Henley and Sungjae and those guys, they'll be more balanced out at this event. But it's like you said, a lot of people, if they're paying up top, won't want to do it for Decky or Hovland when they can just move up to Xander and those guys. Same thing in this range. I don't think a lot of people necessarily want to go to 9,400 Burns, 9,300 Horschel, the Wyndham Clark price bump. It'll be kept in check just because some people don't like that he's being mentioned with ties to the course and all that stuff versus the other. But what is your thoughts on this 9K range? Can't lay down to Sungjae.
I like what they did with the pricing this week, to be honest with you. Like it looks like they put some solid effort into it, and there's not there's not many freebie price tags. Like last week, Aaron Rye at what was he, like 8,100 or something, or 8K, whatever it was. It's like that's just like a standout like value option. Like Justin Thomas was cheap, Sam Burns was super cheap. There's a lot of upper 7K guys that are very appealing. They just said basically, if you played good last week, your ass is going way up in price. And it makes roster construction a little more challenging, I'd say, this week for sure. Can't lay at the top. I mean, appears to, after a pretty bad season, it's been a disappointing season, kind of turning it on at the right time. I mean, finished 12th last week, solid all 3 out of the 4 rounds. Round 1 wasn't great, but he's 3rd at the US Open. He had the 5th at the Travelers, decent at the Open. So it's like 4 straight events where he's been solid. And like Cantlay just seems like the guy that I wouldn't be surprised if he just plays shitty, all season long, gets to the FedEx Cup playoffs and kind of turns it on. Like that wouldn't shock me if he made a run at this thing. I don't even know where he'd have to finish this week to have a solid starting spot for next week, but it wouldn't surprise me. Tony Finau continues to play well, 9,700, but this is probably the biggest price tag we've seen on him in a while. Fleetwood right back where his price has been for a while. And again, I just kind of go to the same talking point with Finau. I mean, you can eliminate the Olympics, but when have you needed Fleetwood? Like when have you needed them in DFS? Like it just hasn't been the case really at all this season, maybe a couple times. But at 96, like, man, he really has to do something. It's no longer like get us a top 20, a top 15. You probably need better than that. And I don't know. I don't love it at 96. Sam Burns, 9,400, pretty solid recently. It's a big boy price tag. I don't necessarily hate him. You guys know my take with Horschel. Like he's been playing well, but he's the guy, man. If he goes out and finishes, top 5, I'll lose money this week. I can live with that and kind of move on. Wyndham Clark continues to play pretty solid golf. And, the nice thing about him is having like these kind of, spike rounds, like round 4, like his last 4 events they talked about on the telecast. Travelers, he shot a 63. Genesis, he shot a 62. The Olympics shot a 65, and then last week 64. Like, so if he is in contention, like going into Sunday, and he can continue this round 4 success, I mean, he'd be an interesting play there at 92. Henley at 91, no real take there. Sungjae 9K, I think decent play, but I will say, this range, a lot of guys with uncomfortable price tags. So curious to see kind of what the field's going to do here.
I like Kenny's call here. Shout out to our guy again, not just because, but like the hammer in the 9Ks. I think this is where I can get behind it. Like up top, I'm pretty comfortable with just eating whatever the Scotty, the Xander, chalk that you get there. That's fine. You can get different with it. You can find other ways. Kawa looks pretty good as compared to those around him, but it's when you get down here, it's like if you just play these guys, Cantlay, Finau, Fleetwood, Horschel, Henley, Im, all guys that I would have interest in. So they'll get mixed in throughout. And I don't care because if I'm not going as heavy on the guys up around them, it's not really like I'm playing everyone. If I'm only playing 2 or 3 guys from 10K and above, then I can play 6 of these guys if I want of the whatever it is, 8 there. So it's like I can do whatever I want in this range. And I think that's how I'll try and handle it as well. I'll have some lineups that start up top and drop to this range. And then I'll have some lineups that just hammer this range and wherever I land beyond that. And then I don't feel like it's as much of a balanced build because it is a no cut. They're still getting all 4 rounds. We literally just saw Hideki take out a field like this. And I know he's priced up more now. It's not like I'm talking down on him. I'm just saying if Finau or if Cantlay or if someone like that beats this field, that to me is not some crazy surprise. Like, oh, how did they do it with Xander and Scotty here? We just saw other guys do it with Xander and Scotty in there last week. So I think that's probably the first thought I would have there. I did see some ties mentioned too. Obviously, they haven't played this course forever. Like it's totally different now, all this other stuff, but just the elevation and everything that gets brought up of, I guess, a lot in general terms, people would bring it to certain just playing like harder courses, but like the Memorial is one that got brought up. And so again, I don't think it's nothing about the setup at all or anything to do with that. I'm saying, but people are bringing it up because people that have done well at the Memorial win the BMW Championship. I think the course is different. I think you could see a lot of different things, but I just think in general, when you look at it from that perspective, people will just build lineups based off of things like that. And so guys that have had success like Horschel, Cantlay, others, it just, to me, it reminds you when people say, oh, it's all guys that do well at the Masters. It's because it's a smaller field that plays. This is the best of the year, which also the best of the year plays at the Memorial. So when I hear those comps, I'm just not quite as certain with them, but just wanted to bring that up as well. So I can see Hammer in the 9K range. It's also because of this 8K range. So let's just jump to it. But Connors, JT, Thigala, Rye, you're going to get a bunch of these names, Hoop. It's like a lot of disappointments, really. Some of them you can say good things about and overall whatever, but like, Stewie, when he called the Fleetwood one, when I put out my poll last week, I said, now the regular season is wrapped up. It's obvious the answer number one on who's the best tour player without a win now is Tommy Fleetwood. Everybody else got their win. Other guys have got Dunlap came in and got 2 wins, like an amateur and a pro.
The crazy thing though, with the, I love that comment there, but the crazy thing with Fleetwood, it's like, he's been I'd say, definitely a big disappointment, but he's like priced like he didn't have a disappointing season. Like he's been priced in this range for weeks now, and he just hasn't done shit. Like it, to me, like the price tag and what we're seeing on the course just does not match up. And I mean, now watch he'll go out and get his win this week because we're shitting all over him. But like, I just don't get why he's consistently now like a $9,600 golfer. Like why?
That's all that it's tough to beat when, like you said, it's from a safety and consistency of those 15ths and 16ths and 20ths and all that. 14th here, you're like, that's awesome and great. And those are full field events. And I get all that. But then when it comes down to it here, you got to make the decision. Again, he's in the 9K range. I get it. He's going to pop for some. He's got good odds in Vegas and stuff like that. So I think he's actually going to get some of the ownership there too. But I think it's, more because I don't know. I don't know how you feel about it. And I'll get what others' takes are, but others earlier in this chat already said the 8K range stinks. Others, I think, will be okay with it, but it's like Corey Connors, someone, you like Canadian guys, Corey Connors, JT, business decision. People always seem to love Thigala, Bhatia, Cam Young, Scott. These guys always get a little bit of love, but I feel like it's going to be pretty spaced out here, just because of the setup and the overall roster construction we talked about earlier.
Yeah, I mean, really digging into this now, I mean, 50-man field, I'm assuming most people, if they're building 150, will, probably get a little bit of everyone. Could end up being a good week for me because I have a lot of guys that I can just cross off the list and move on and feel pretty damn good about it. I've always been a supporter of Corey Connors, and I was like, man, like I watched a pretty decent amount of golf last weekend. Like I was kind of into it, watching it. I mean, I know, people like hate the commentators and the what they kind of talk about, but I thought it was kind of cool to see the guys like drop out of the 50 back in and some of the storylines behind it. And I was like, shit, like I played a lot of Corey Connors last week. Like, what did he do? I don't think I saw one shot of Corey Connors all weekend long. I pulled it up. It's because, he didn't play that well. 50th place, 69, 70, 70, 70. But he's 8,900. Another guy, that's a big price tag. Justin Thomas, I don't know, man. It's like frustrating. You watch and it's like, all right, he's figured it out. Like he's got it going. Then like a double bogey or something derails it. And if he has a good round, the next one is guaranteed to be crappy. He's a mess. 8,800. The business decision this week might just be fading his ass. I don't know. Thigala, we just haven't seen anything out of him like in these stronger fields. Like at the 46 last week, missed the cut at the Open. Travelers was a strong field, 48th. U.S. Open, 32nd. Like his best finish, I guess, recently would be at the Memorial, 12th. Like I don't know, like 86 or 87 for him. Aaron Rye, though, I mean, he's been playing well. We kind of talked about it on the show last week. You kind of want guys that are moving in the right direction. He's definitely moving in the right direction. 8,600. It's not a great price tag, but out of everyone in this range, he's been the best guy over the course of the last 2 months, I'd say. Cam Young, very disappointing season, sucked last week. Bhatia, I'm going to continue to play him, get some exposure in GPPs. Adam Scott at 83. Now we're talking again in this range where it's the average cost of a roster spot on DraftKings. Adam Scott's actually been pretty good. I mean, we've joked all season, like, he's a top 30 guy, but 18th last week, 10th at the Open, 2nd at the Genesis, kind of steady, doesn't really have these blow up events or rounds or anything. So I'm moderately interested in him. I think Jason Day, similar as to Adam Scott, right around the average cost of a roster spot on DraftKings. He's been good. A lot of, with Jason Day, a lot of it depends on the putting, and he's been putting pretty well. But at 82, I'm somewhat interested. No strong opinion on Lowry. And then Seabass has kind of just been cruising. I mean, kind of, outside of the Genesis and the Open Championship where he missed the cut at both, he's been kind of top 25 guy all season long. In a 50 person event, can he, turn that 25-ish into a 15? Yeah, I have a little bit of interest in him as well. So I'd say more, Ryan down interest for me, like Connors, JT, Thigala, Cam Young, Lowry, probably not super interested in those guys. So I can already tell you this is shaping up to be a week where I will have more full fades than the rest of the field for sure.
Yeah, and sticking to our theme of always just talking about roster construction and breaking it down from that perspective versus who the actual play is. We can talk about that content too. I've got the FedEx Cup stuff up here. I'll go through it in a second, but this is kind of my decision point, which I was mentioning earlier. So I gave the Scotty and Rye example. And obviously on paper that, feels a lot better than Rory and Morikawa, because if you don't believe in Rory, you're just done with them. I get all that. But going back to it before, if you turn it into a 3v3, and I don't have one physically in front of me to say it, but I'm saying if you go Scotty, Rye, and what the rest of that lineup looks like versus what if you do get to the guys you feel comfortable with in the 9K range? What if it's Cantlay, Finau, and Sung J M or Wyndham Clark or something you really feel strong about doing that? I think that's going to be the decision, right? Because if you're going Adam Scott as your second guy or third guy in with a Scotty lineup, or it's Rye or it's Corey Connors or something like that, that cannot feel that great. Like you're leaving out a ton of in between. You essentially need your top guy to get the job done, and then you're forced to play a bunch of these guys as we get even lower that there's not going to be a ton of confidence in. So that's why I just wonder if this range goes a little bit more overlooked than we may even already be thinking, besides maybe Aaron Rye and Adam Scott, the two that we mentioned. But I think you will see other guys get squeezed here, because as much as there's some name value to them, it's just I don't think people are going to be comfortable with those builds. And if they are, it's going to be to go to Rye or Scott or I don't know, maybe Bez or Lowry. I don't know. But it just seems like people would rather take their chances in this next 7K range than they would land with a bunch of 8K guys.
Yeah, I mean, and then when you go down to the sevens though as well, it's like there's not a lot that stands out, which is crazy because you're here essentially the second to last leg of the PGA playoffs, and there's a lot of guys that I guess really aren't even playing that well. It is kind of crazy. It's going to be a challenging week when you go in there and actually start to build teams. Like I messed around and tried building a couple. There's going to be a lot of uncomfortable stuff that you have to put in your lineups to make things work. That's one thing that stands out. Going into the sevens, Davis Thompson, good season for sure. 7,900. I think you go back to him. Fitz showed up finally for the first time in forever last week with a T18. I don't know like how he got there. Was it putting? Was it iron play? Whatever. But 7,800 for him. Someone mentioned in the chat. It's like, yeah, I mean, he's a guy that is typically a little more expensive. Yeah. So it seems like he's one guy that if you're just looking at prices, not looking at the results recently, he's a little bit lower than he typically is at 7,800. So if you want to get behind one good event on Fitz, I could kind of see that. Benny on, people like to play him. 7,700, finished 30, tied T33 last week. I mean, I don't know. Sure. Robert McIntyre, 7th. I am interested in McIntyre. I mean, when you're starting to, look at guys, you want guys that have the chance to go out there and win. And he's won. He's gotten hot late in rounds, events. Like I'm good with that. Pendrith at 73 stands out a little bit. Brian Harmon has been, I'd say, pretty bad, but 7,200, maybe. Sepp Straka, and then like Keegan. I don't know. Like there really isn't much that stands out when you come in the 7K range. Like there's nothing all that exciting. So like what are people going to do this week? We just talked about 3 ranges, the 9Ks, the 8Ks, the 7Ks. And I'd say all of them have a shitload of question marks and guys that you really don't want to click on. So I think we'll have some surprises come Thursday when it comes to ownership.
Man, speaking of Benny On, this is crazy. I was just looking at the FedEx Cup standings. He's sitting in 15th place. This
Really?
guy might,
Wow.
you know what? There was no mentions. He might be one of the better players out there that hasn't won. If you go out and look, he's got no PGA Tour win. He's got international wins. He's got like 27 top 10s to Fleetwood's 35. Like he's right behind him in all that stuff. A bunch of top fives. Like he's up to 15th in these standings. And I don't even remember him doing anything all season except coming 13th in a bunch of events. So it's like, man, good on him. But just a note on that too, because we didn't get talked about enough off the top, and it's not really something I care about too much. It's all narrative based, but I do just bring it up because people like this stuff, is that in the past, the bubble boys are the bubble boys for a reason. And there's been plenty of times where like people will use this week and say, oh, like Tommy and Connors and Will Zalatoris, I saw it mentioned earlier, which is, you know, we'll talk about him in a second in the 6K range, wants to end it on a good term, price in a decent range. Like they either do or they don't. And everyone that jumps inside the line, the same amount of people jump outside. If 8 get in, 8 go out. If 30 get to the final. So they're all going to try and play good. The one thing I will say, showdown, you can tie this towards, and just knowing your guys at the bottom, the pricing is pretty good for who ended up where. Like it almost looks like more than the skill level they took, like where they are in the standing. So just know that when you get down to your value plays, there is going to be people that are just firing at pins all weekend to try and score because they need to go all the way. They need to have something very serious go their way for them to sneak into that top 30 and have a shot at East Lake to make the big money. So that can go good and bad. But just to keep that in mind, you know, some of those guys down below that are completely out of it, most of them are who we're going to get to. But currently, like Scotty, Connors, Matt Fitzpatrick, Willie Z, Cam Young, Adam Scott, some of the names we mentioned, all on the outside looking in. They need to have big weeks to make it into the finals. So again, some will say that motivates them. It'll end up just being a content piece. Oh, it's because it was too much pressure. If they do good, it'll be, oh, it's because they were motivated and they had to get in. So not something I touch on too much, but just a couple things there. I liked your Bobby Mack call. Denny McCarthy, the whatever it is, the torn labrum or the surgery he needs after the season, he still played fine. I think, at least, you know, looking back at it and, you know, over the weekend and finishing strong and everything
Do you think that scares people off him a little bit? I mean, he's one of the guys down here that played pretty well. I mean, he finished 9th. Do you think the injury concerns, because DraftKings had him labeled questionable as of, I think, this morning. Do you think that lowers his ownership a little bit?
I think it does. And they actually had him as out at one point last week. And everyone's pissed off. Like, he just finished the round. I could have swore I saw it, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, people talked about it a lot too in baseball and things like that. People just wait out the season and get it later on. I think he's fine. It's just, it'll be something that people can blame. If he doesn't, how could you have ever played a guy that had this? Well, how did he play 3 more rounds and end up coming out okay in the end? It's not, he was going on to win it. So I think it was, you know, it was there. If you had it, you got it. But in this case, I think it's fine. He's definitely going to be lower owned than the guys around him though. Pendrith, who you talked about there, big Sepp and Bobby Mack remind me, you know, similar, just 2 big dudes out there on the course. But I think that you could see Sepp get a little involved at 7,100, battle his way through. And he's actually, I think I was just looking it up too. He's inside too. He's like 24th, which is another one. It's just, again, good season, but like, it just seems like it doesn't seem like it was that good. And that's probably it for the 7K range, but go into the 6s here because Dunlap is the talk of the town after last week, past history here, all this stuff, but just Dunlap down to your boy, Mathieu Pavon, who's down there at the bottom.
He was once my boy, not anymore. What's the you said Dunlap has course history here?
Well, it's like the amateur, whatever it was, Castle, what's it called?
Okay, so he's played it. And most of these guys probably haven't even played the course. So I guess that's that's definitely the guy that just showed up here and played around is considered the course history guys, because there's just not many guys that have played here. 69, fine with him. I don't think he's going to be. Is he supposed to get like ownership or something?
Who's that?
Dunlap.
Yeah. Dunlap's going to get ownership for sure. Okay, Dunlap and your boy Grazerman are going to be 2 of the dudes down here. Yeah, probably Siwoo as well gets some steam just because he always does.
Yeah, Zalatoris 68. You know, 12th last week. I think he's right close to the number, right around 30. So, you know, I'm fine playing him at, like, I just look at a lot of these guys down here and it's like, okay, compare them to dudes in like the 7K range, and I'll just take my chances with the 6K guys. Dunlap, Zalatoris, Siwoo, like you said. Eric Cole's the one that has to be pretty highly owned, I'd assume, down here. I don't know what the number. Ownership's obviously going to be inflated. There's only 50 guys, but Cole, I would guess, is going to be the highest at 6,500, 18th last week, 7th, 31st, 46th, 7th, 6th, 48th. He's playing the best he's played all season long. So at 65, I imagine he gets some ownership. And Max Homa, I mean, he's got to be playing worse than anyone, right? I mean, you know the numbers, you know the stats. I mean, the statistical breakdown of him has to be like field worst, correct?
Yeah, it was so bad last week. It was him, Rory, and JT at the bottom, which would be crazy to think about when you saw the top of that board. But yeah, that's what people are looking at.
Yeah, I don't think I can click that. Eckroat, Grazerman, I'll continue there. Cam Davis, I'm fine with it at 62. Hadwin, Kirk, I'm willing to. I mean, without giving away what I'm fully doing this week, like I'm willing to play any of these guys to make sure I get adequate, Scotty and Xander. So I'll say that much. I'd be willing to play Pavon, Jaeger, Poston, Kirk, any of them in order to get, enough Scotty and Xander. But Eckroat definitely stands out. Grazerman, Cole, Zalatoris, Dunlap. Those are, probably the main ones. Those are probably the highest owned ones as well, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We'll see what happens with Cole. Now, Cole was really high owned last week, and it mattered some, so maybe people stick with it. But a lot of times people seem to jump off. So, the thing, just to quick back to it, because I had to go and find it again on Nick Dunlap, because, again, I don't look at this stuff or care about it too much because to me, it's not what makes or breaks DFS. It just kind of tells you ownership, which is what we actually care about, is the U.S. Amateur at Cherry Hills was in Colorado. Right, that he won. So it's like he won an event in Colorado, so it becomes a thing. But Kenny's looking for it too, right?
Yeah, I mean, after labeling Mackenzie Hughes the most disrespectful price tag last week, it's hard to bounce back with excitement. But if I had to pick one, a lot of guys are overpriced this week. It's going to be a boring one because, again, I just talked about the guy, and I think he ends up with high ownership. It's got to be Eric Cole at 6,500. Like, he could easily, based on how he's been playing, easily be low to mid sevens, and he's checking in at 6,500. So it's not an exciting off the wall call for the most disrespectful price, but it's going to be Eric Cole at 6,500.
All right, let's play a new game because they're still waiting for their Shoey video.
Yeah, I know, man. I'm so bad. I always forget. Like, I'm going to get it. Trust me. Before NFL, we're getting a Shoey video.
Oh, right? I'm a man of the people. I'm always there.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen. I got to find a day that I'm drinking, and it's going to happen. Trust me.
Now he's too healthy for you guys. He's not drinking.
Not too healthy. No. I usually hit it on the weekend, so I just got to remember to do it.
Let's do this one quick. Eric Cole. I'm going to say Dunlap. I'm going to say Grazerman. And I'm going to say, what will you do a second shoey, a back-to-back shoey, if Cole is the fourth highest owned in this 6K range?
Yeah,
he's not even top three.
Yes.
All right, we got it on tape, boys. We got it on tape.
He's top three. He's top what? So he's got to be what, fourth or below?
Fourth or worse. I think he's fourth or worse. I think three guys come in just we're only talking 6K range, so you got a good range to yourself here. But I think you should do a second shoey because, one, you owe the first one to the people still. Two, I think we got another interesting ownership take. I'll be nice. But I think I actually think he's not in the top three in this range. We'll see.
Yeah, I'll go back to back on that one. He's got to be top three. I'd be shocked.
All right, back-to-back shoeys. The Week 1 NFL Sunday shoey from Hoop. That's going to be the Hoop.
See what I do the Saturday night before Week 1 of NFL before I can commit to that.
The Week 1 shoey show. That's going to be good, man. Show up for the shoey show.
That's
Shoey
show.
Week 1. Excited for all that. That's going to be amazing.
Is Dak on the main slate? Because I can't ruin my Dak jersey with a bunch of beer.
I think it's Dallas Cleveland Week 1.
Oh, all right. Well, I don't know if I'll be on Dak, but
Texas fans out there or people in Texas that would know what Dallas is up to that week. Maybe they can let us know, but I'm pretty sure that's what it's going to be. And I said no. Maybe Eckroat falls into that too, but I don't think I've got Grazerman, I've got Dunlap, and then I think Siwoo is the guy that gets the steam. We'll see. We cover the ownership over at SHIPIT Nation. You guys can check it out there. It's been incredible all season. So I see a lot of people making their way over there. A lot of those logos at the top of the leaderboards in both Classic and Showdown. But yeah, it is Cleveland. And yeah, what if it's without Lamb? We've heard this. Yeah, Lamb is posting Venom, Spider-Man pictures out there. Like, I don't know if he's switching squads or what he's trying to say, but I think they've got the rights to him. So I think it's going to be something that happens sooner than later, but we'll have to wait and see. Excited for NFL.
We definitely won't be playing a lot of Dak this year if he doesn't have CD. I can promise you that it'll be a little bit different than what we had going on last year.
I think the same thought is what CD's having as well. Yeah, you guys got to go back and watch the tape and see what was the cause of a lot of that stuff last season. It was just an incredible turn of events and Dak going off, your business decision, all that we had covered and more. But one note I'll say about down here, just to round it out for me, but like all these guys, These are the ones I'm talking about. Eric Cole is 46th. Grazerman is 47th. Dunlap is 48th. Siwoo 44th. It fits exactly what we would expect, I'm saying. But I think that you're going to have to know that some of these guys are just going balls to the wall. There's nothing to lose, everything to gain. So it's like there's no playing it safe out here and try and just, if I just make enough pars, I can just climb my way up the board. Like, they got to get out there and get after it. They are going to, pick their spots and things like that. But just knowing it from past years at this type of setup and format, it's no different than when we play a DFS live final, Hoop at the Fantasy Golf World Championship. Round 2, you can't really mess around, just play your cash game lineup again because everyone already did that. Everyone follows that. You need to get that leverage and you need to find some way to just sneak in, and then you really dial it in next week. And that's where you hedge your way around and be like, all right, this is a $500,000 putt now. This is for $1 million, this iron shot. Like, you saw some of the money guys like Homa and them have made in the past on these final shots going in there. So I definitely think that. And then Illini fan, good dude, always in here supporting and appreciate you. Like, this is just a thing about our shows versus the others. We have model rankings up on the site. We have all the stuff covered in the Discord. This is the stuff I pay the least attention to. Like, I just don't, because all I care about is the tournaments that I'm playing against. What is the field doing? That's why people that play DFS and find success at it, and what we teach over at SHIPIT Nation, it's not about who you play, it's how you play them. That's why we talk about this so much. That could matter in the end. And people say, but it's all, guess what? There's a bunch of good par 5 scores. It's not often you're going to be able to take the par 5 scores list and put it next to the leaderboard and say, that was the secret sauce this week. Sometimes, but I'm just saying in general, the big focus, especially on a 50-man field with a no-cut event, it's going to matter so much more about what the DFS field is doing and what you're doing against them. And the result is just going to be on paper of what the actual golfers did that create those winning lineups. Hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, all that stuff's covered in more in the education course. All that's covered over in the Discord. But that's the key to DFS, right? That's why people playing DFS can win it. How'd they know about NASCAR? Oh, he wins at MLB too. I never heard him talk about that. You're playing a game. You're not playing baseball or golf or any of that stuff. None of that stuff really matters besides a result. So anything else, Hoop, you want to add on just strategy in general or anything else for this event in particular?
No. All our content some of it's already up. Actually, a lot of it, I know you got a lot of your stuff up. I'm starting to work on my stuff. I know Lee obviously has his stuff up nice and early. So content will be up early this week. Lock in some winners. And again, don't feel the pressure to go super hard at this unless you think you have some sort of advantage or have a good read on the slate. But it's a wild card week. I'm going to have fun with it. We have some of the best golfers in the world. So it should be entertaining from a viewership standpoint. But let's have fun, and also at the same time see if we can get those logos up at the top.
Yeah, either way, however it goes, it seemed to work out pretty good that way either way. And there's going to be Showdown that's still good down the stretch. So if you guys want to get the free PGA DFS Showdown mini course, even if you don't sign up, even if you don't join the nation, whatever it is, you can always watch these shows for free. Like the show, subscribe to the channel for all the upcoming NFL content. College football content, should note that as well. By the way, college football back this week included in our football package. It's not just NFL. So it's college football. We will have projections, ownership, the stone, core reports, player pools, everything in the Discord covered so that you're on top of that news, because that's really what college football is going to come down to. It's whoever puts in the effort, and we are the home of the sweaty tryhard. Shout out to our guy, Degenerate75. So it's going to be the place to be for that. So if you're getting football, you may as well get college football with it as well.
Yeah, don't go out and pay a huge premium for a college football package, please. Save yourself the money. Everyone's going to say they got the secret sauce. They're going to say they got the best team at covering college football, blah, blah, blah. So pay me $300-$400. Don't do it. It's part of our football package. So for the same price of NFL, you get college football as well. We have a team of 5 to 6 guys very dedicated to college football. They're going to be locked in on this shit every single week, very passionate about it. Don't pay big bucks for college football, please. That's one thing I will say.
We had a couple people reach out and say, can I get a college football only package? It's not yet. We want to grow the game just like we're doing with everything else, trying to make it bigger and better. And that's why we're getting focused on this. But it is still cheaper. The other sites out there are charging $3.99, $4.49, whatever it might be. That's fine. That's their own prerogative. I always say that. But even if you were just buying this for college football, it's $100 to $150 cheaper, and you get NFL with all this other stuff that you can use to your advantage and check out as you go. So yeah, definitely love that call. Lots of good stuff. And part of the merger that we were super excited about when we first had it happen with James and the rest of his team and just all those people coming over, it's awesome, is that CFB was a heavy focus for them. And they were putting in the time. Like we said, the sweaty tryhard is the mantra, but it's the fact of like, it's not just that there's late news and you're literally getting it from student reporters that people have connections to, but it's then that it's like, okay, if that person is out, that's fine, but we still got to update projections here. And these guys are the ones putting in the time to know who that's going to lead to, what the rest of the industry is going to do. Again, about beating the fields and the tournaments that you're playing in. We're going to see our logos up top. We're going to make a name for ourselves when it comes to that, like we have with everything else. Excited for that. And that starts this week. So if you haven't got in yet, just go to Join the Nation. You can get the $2.99 early bird, or you can simply go to Single Sport. The monthly for $54 includes NFL and CFB. But if you want the optimizer, which is only for NFL right now, it's $64, just $10 more a month, can get in that way. That's going to do it for this one, guys. Appreciate you guys all season watching this with us. For Hoop, for myself, ToeTagginTambo, let's ship it!